On the Breakfast, Nigerian Bar Association annual general conference this year has generated some talking points. We look at the matters arising as the role of lawyers in national development. We'll also have a look at the latest as far as the strike by members of the Academic Union of Nigerian Universities is concerned. And as always, we'll have an in-depth analysis of today's newspaper on Off the Press. This is a beautiful morning and thanks for joining us. I am Messi Boko. This is The Breakfast. As always, we start off with our top trending conversation. And one of it is that the court orders seizure of Senator Andy Uba's vehicles. Now, it's a lot that transpired. It's a case that had happened in 2017, and there's more of a reorder, recent judgment that's been put out. So just a brief one now. What actually transpired, or a bit of a background, is that, during the court trial, or what happened in the court is that money was gifted as a donation. I mean, that's the argument that Andy Uba, those who were representing his counsel, actually put out. But prior to this time, there was a judgment in 2017 that talked about, having to pay Otonzerbe's or Otoeze, I beg your pardon, I'm not saying Otonzerbe. Now, on March the 6th, 2017, there was a judgment that was given by Justice Nwai of the Aguta Judicial Division. That judgment was delivered. Now, the judge held that the defendant had not disclosed any good defense to the suit. In such circumstance, the plaintiff was entitled to a judgment. So, however, I felt like there was money that had actually passed hand between Senator Andy Uba and the Oranto Petroleum Limited. It's a company. But, of course, the owner of the company is Otoeze, right? He owns the company. And the back and forth has been that money was given 50 million naira, and it's time to pay for it. But Andy Uba is of the argument that this money was given as a gift, and so it was just donated. But on the other side, it feels like, hey, it wasn't a gift, it was a loan-free, cash that was given. So you didn't need to actually pay any interest. However, 50 million was actually involved here. Whether it was from the company, whether it was from individual, it's something that we can actually not ascertain, because even the courts, all of the details that brought in the court have not been, established. So yes, like I mentioned, and so it was that judgment. So something that prior happened, 2017, there was a case in court, and a judgment was actually given, but the judgment was not respected. That's what it was. The judgment was not respected. And in the court, what actually happened in the court is that, Andy Uba, his counsel or his representative, argued that the money was a gift and a donation from Mr. Otoeze, the owner of the petroleum, company, right? The Oranto Petroleum Limited or company, for his political campaign. That's what the counsel of Andy Uba has been arguing over time. But Andy Uba's counsel also challenged, because prior to this time, that's in 2017, before the judgment was given, that the issue of jurisdiction was also on top of the front burner, that the court could not hear the case at the time because the gift item was actually exchanged in Enugu and the senator lives in Abuja, so it wasn't, the issue of jurisdiction was also given. Right. He also argued that there was no resolution of the company authorizing the suit. There was nowhere the company had authorized the suit, so who authorized the suit? And that's what he said, while referring to Section 167 of the Evidence Act 2021 and relying on Section 133, subsection 1 and Section 2 of the Evidence Act of 2021 as well. He argued that the company failed to establish or lead a concrete evidence to show that the 50 million naira given to Senator Uba was and indeed a loan facility and not a gift. So Andyuba's counsel also argued that the money that was given, that's what happened in the court. It wasn't, a loan facility, but it was rather a gift. And this is what it is. I mean, it's really so interesting that we have to talk about this. Borrowing of money, lending of money, how it happened. Now we have to talk about, what transpired between two friends, because before you actually ask someone to loan you money, there must be some kind of connection, especially when that kind of money is involved. So, but you also have the plaintiff in response also relying on Section 131 of the Evidence Act of 2023, saying that it is dependent on Andyuba to prove that there was no intention to repay, but however, he has accepted that it was a friendly free loan. Okay, but it was also dependent on him to prove that there was no intention to repay. On that issue, there was no evidence from the company that it authorized the suit. And so a judgment was therefore given. That judgment was given, and the judgment said that, a sum should actually be paid in terms of refund. The issue was that the evidence from the company, I like to take that again, that therefore the court prayed to hold Senator Uba that he failed to offer real defense to the suit that was filed and have failed in that regard, and the court should enter a judgment against him in the sum of 15 million naira, being a refund of money he took as loan. So in 2017, the court had actually said, hey, this was a judgment that, he should pay the 15 million naira in the sum of course, 50 million, like I said, it was going to be a refund of the money he took as loan. Okay, so that's the case. And because we're talking about it in 2022, so it's a bit of a recent judgment. Now, following the failure of Senator Andyuba to pay the sum, that on the 5th of May 2022, the plaintiff actually had to file an ex parte motion seeking an execution of the judgment delivered in 2017. So I think it's a case that has lingered for a very long time, from 2017 and, prior to 2022, early this year, because we're still in 2022 and all of that. This is what it is now. So it's not a recent case, but it's a case that has actually trickled down. It has actually lingered. And usually it's the fact that what happens, we have a culture where a lot of persons, prominent persons, do not respect, court orders, and because the court is actually the highest, as the highest court or law of the land that actually gives all the judgment. And so usually you have cases where individuals, including those elite who do not respect court judgment. We have seen several cases where there's a total disregard for judgment or orders that are from the court. How many times have persons respected it? I'm just a bit taken aback that, a case from 2017, was he talking about it in 2022, really? And what is really it? I'm not even a legal practitioner, so I don't even have issues to talk about the jurisdiction or the content of that case. But that's why you have the lawmakers and that's why you have the court, because they are there to, they are there to actually put out, ensure that justice is actually meted, that people live up to what the law talks about. But unfortunately, this has not been the case. And the recent judgment for 2022 is that the court has ordered that there be a forfeiture of profits, forfeiture of properties. That's because if you look at 50 million naira, he's refused to pay. The order is that whatever would amount to 50 million naira should be taken. It follows the recent judgment where you have the police or some seizure of properties like vehicles, maybe just to look at how much that will be. But I'm sure that before both parties actually entered into an agreement, whether it was a loan or not a loan or it was a gift, there should be some kind of level of agreement, and I'm not sure that both parties have actually been able to state what exactly transpired. Was this money a gift, or was it just, not a gift? What was it exactly, and how come, the issue of monies can be very, very, very delicate and very sensitive, but that's what's on our top trending this morning. We'll move away from that. You have the banks rationing, or banks ration $4,000 travel allowance due to insufficient dollars. And so some customers have experienced a bit of Not very pleasant experience at the banks because of shortage of forex and those who actually have to transact, especially those who are not in the country. I mean, there's some level of it, and so that has also not sat down very, very well with the people. Another issue on the top trending is that the Falconets were also found. The pictures have made the round where the Falconets were seen in the hospital, and according to the reports, the Falconets are stranded at the Turkish airport. Okay, but there's been a response, from the part of the government, and so the General Secretary of the Nigerian Footballer Federation, Dr. Mohammed Sanusi, says that the Falconets missed their flight from Turkey to Nigeria, explaining that they were not stranded in Europe. So that's not the case. It's not a case that you were stranded. It could also be that they missed their flight. It could also be, logistic issues with the flights themselves, the airlines, because some airlines, you probably have a flight for a certain time and then the flight cannot move. There's a delay. It's possible that they can say, we are not able to move for whatever reason. So it's a response from the government saying that the reports that the Falconets left Costa Rica on Monday, or Costa Rica, the venue of the 2022 Under 20 Women's World Cup, on Monday, after crashing out of the competition, where that they were stranded, is actually false. That's not the case. The case is that they missed their flight. But even if they missed their flight, I mean, let's even look at this now. Because the players were pictured sleeping on bare floors and chairs at the airport and were waiting for their flight. Sanusi says that this actually report is mischievous and very misleading. But even if these persons missed their flight, we're talking about the Falconets. And so far, this year or this season, this period, even though they crashed out after an encounter with the Netherlands, you can also not take out that these lads have been very fantastic in their performance. We have seen, the energy, the zest that they have actually, put in the course of this particular game. But really, because how do we take care of these assets? We call them assets. They're assets. I don't know if that's what the government calls them, but these are assets and they ought to be treated honorably, right? Could this also happen to a governor who has an entourage who will be traveling outside of the country or who's outside of the country? This can never happen. So do we make plans? Is there any plan? Because these things can actually happen. It's possible that they can miss their flight. It's possible that anything can happen. But the pictures is making the rounds because the government is saying, hey, they were not stranded. They all missed their flight. And even if they missed their flight, shouldn't we have a backup plan? Is there no, plan and somewhere miscellaneous that could actually cater for their welfare and not allow them, in that condition? And pictures were taken, made the rounds. It can be very demoralizing. Don't we have what it takes to cater for the crew? Some people said you're going to have like 35% in the crew, the players, including the entire persons, and so to have a hotel might just be on the high side. Really, I think that we can do better. Whatever the case is, they were not stranded, they missed their flight. But the situation or the pictures that have made the rounds is really, really not very friendly, and it doesn't speak well of our government and our country, especially for those who actually get to, fly the flag of the country across sport. But that's the size of it on Top Trending. This morning, we'll take a break. When we return, it'll be time for us to go through the front pages of the national dailies. Please stay with us.